Test.
يلا يلا. Okay. Welcome back. You will do it in English, huh? You will do it in English. Okay. So welcome back, everyone. Thanks for returning back somehow around the time, not very well on time. So we will start now the session overview, how to scale up SMEs in the Arab market. We have an amazing panel here. They will inspire us and they will give us lots of hints and ideas on what we can implement in our communities when we return back home. So Lara, the floor is yours now.
Test. Salam everyone, good afternoon, welcome back. So you just got the vitamins, the energy from the lunch break. Now in this panel, we're gonna get more food for thought and practical solutions in relation to scaling up and even success stories. To begin with, we're gonna start with Ms. Rana Nawas. Rana is the founder of When Women Win, and she is a partner at Oliver Wyman. Thank you for being with us and hopefully inspiring other entrepreneurs on scaling up. Our next panel speaker is Mr. Karim Shaaban, the Program Director of Center of International Private Enterprise in Jordan. We're gonna tackle also his perspective from nurturing the entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the Arab region. Also, welcome and thank you also for being with us, Ms. Zahraa. Ms. Zahraa Taher is a board member in the Federation of Business and Professional Women in Bahrain. She's also the board member of the Entrepreneurial Organization in Bahrain and a managing director of the Finmark Communication. Welcome. Thank you again, Mr. Rafik Feki is from the Industrial Development, he's the Industrial Development Officer, Division of Digital Transformation and AI at Strategies at UNIDO. So as you've noticed, we have guest panelists from different perspectives, from women leadership, community, talent leadership, and AI and digital transformation. To begin with, Ms. Rana, I would love you to give us like an overview of your career, especially you have worked with women and women in the Arab world, and we know that if you empower women, you empower a nation, right? So basically, from your career journey, if you can give us a bit of the 20 years you've been dealing with women trying to scale up in the Arab region, and if you can share some thoughts about this and the challenges they've been through in scaling up in the Arab region, please.
Sure, thank you. I'm so happy to be here, so thank you to UNESCO for the invitation. I was so excited, I came straight from a wedding last night in Dubai to the airport on a flight, and here we are. My connection to Jordan is my dad was Palestinian Jordanian, Allah yarhamu, medical doctor. He was an OBGYN who actually delivered both my sister and I in England. My mom's Lebanese, powerhouse, Allah yahmiya, child psychologist, free therapy my whole life. I think it paid off, we'll find out. So yeah, I have a 22-year career. And I won't go into the details. You can find those on LinkedIn. I'm super happy to connect there. If you want to send me a message, I'm very active on that platform. And all the details are there. I'll just give you a summary, which is I've worked in various strategy, sales, and leadership roles across the world. I've worked on 4 continents. And what I'll do here is just pick out a few of the experiences relevant to our discussion today about women-led SMEs. So my third job was at GE, General Electric. And I actually spent 13 years there, most of it in aviation. So I was regional director for GE Capital Aviation Services, which was at the time the world's largest aircraft lessor. So we owned 10% of the world's fleet of aircraft, and we would lease them to airlines. And in about 2011, in 2011, the president of GE Middle East Africa asked me to lead the women's network for GE for Middle East and Africa. And the Women's Network existed to attract, develop, and retain women at GE. So that's really when I started looking at supporting and empowering women. And it was a huge, I mean, overnight, I became, when I started running the network, overnight I became a lightning rod for 700 women across Middle East and Africa. And it was a very eye-opening experience because I realized that my experience was not necessarily theirs and theirs wasn't mine. And in fact, there's a broad spectrum of experiences that women can have, and no one woman is going to have all of them. Certainly no man is going to have them. And that was a big eye-opener on like empathy. There's an empathy gap because we don't see the fact that we don't experience something they might be. And so that was a really maturing experience. And I did that for a few years. A few years later, I was asked to co-lead the, I was asked actually to be president of Elevate Dubai, which is a business women's network in Dubai. And what's interesting about Elevate is super diverse. So you have entrepreneurs and corporate women from all different stages in their careers, all different industries, and they come with different purposes. So I went to Elevate as a member because I wanted to connect with other women and figure out how they were navigating the world of business. Entrepreneurs come, they could be looking for a business partner, they could be looking for funding, they could be looking to hire talent, they could be looking for sales leads, and that's the value of a network. And Elevate, I mean, is one of a sort of very successful one. It was one of the biggest, maybe the biggest in the Middle East at the time. And I think the reason it grew so much, so I grew it from 30 members to 450 members, from 4 events a year to 24 events a year. But I think the value that women got there is, of course, meeting with others and building a support network, but also the practice of networking, because networking is a practice. And it became easier and easier the more women came, and that's the value that they sort of extracted, I would think, sort of a big piece of it. So I'll come back to this during the panel discussion, I'm sure. The sort of next big thing, and of course all of this I'm doing as a pursuit of passion, right? My day job is leasing aircraft. And then my sort of third big pursuit of passion was starting a podcast called When Women Win. And the reason I did that was while I was at GE and I was the youngest sales VP, SVP GCAS had ever hired globally. So I was pretty senior. And I realized that a lot of women in mid-management didn't have role models right at the top. And that's not a problem only in the Middle East at all. And it was a problem I wanted to try to help address in my own way. And that was through a podcast where I would interview business women leaders from all around the world, and every third episode was an Arab woman. And it took off. So we're When Women Win. There's 100 episodes. Who here listens to podcasts, by the way? Hands up. Wow, not bad. When Women Win. Okay, we're actually a partner of the UN Women Media Compact, and on Emirates Airlines flights, and on all podcast apps. And I highlight that because really it's to bridge that gap, it's to provide those role models for not only actually middle management women, but also men who want to hear from female leaders. I'll fast forward. I then became the chief revenue officer of a logistics software startup in Houston, Texas. And we raised our first round. We raised $2 million. That was a lot of fun. That was hard work. We were a 3-person team. And then I moved back here. During that time when I was CRO, I joined 2 advisory boards. One was for a supersonic jet manufacturer. So my background is aviation. I'm very passionate about aviation. And I also sit on the advisory board of the Oryx Fund, which is a $50 million fund by a VC based in London called Hambro Perks. And we invest in fintech, edtech, and health tech. And today I am going to focus on access to capital, women's access to funding, because there's a huge gender gap here for women-led SMEs. So our focus is women-led SMEs scaling up. A big barrier that I've seen, especially during my podcast talking to women entrepreneurs, is that access to funding. So to put that into context, depending on the geography you look at, about 20 to 25% of SMEs are started by women, or startups are founded by women. 20 to 25%, and yet they only receive 2% of VC dollars. So what's going on? And we can talk about why that happens. And by the way, that 2% figure has actually been declining since 2016. So it was actually higher back in 2016. So the picture, I mean, why aren't women-led startups getting VC dollars? It's particularly shocking when you think of the fact. Now, men, I know there's a lot of men in the room. Dig deep, find your thick skin, because I'm about to deliver a hard fact. And the hard fact is that women-led startups deliver almost twice as much revenue on the dollar that you invest. So one study found it was women-led startups deliver on average 78 cents on the dollar, men's 31. So why, when women-led startups deliver better financial results, are they so chronically underfunded? We could talk about why that happens. We can talk about solutions as well. I hope we get into solutions too. Thank you.
Thank you, Rana. So you focused on empathy, networking, role models, and the access to finance. We'll get back to this. Highlighting the importance of networking, nurturing the community, or nurturing the ecosystem, entrepreneurial ecosystem in the Arab region. We come to you, Mr. Karim Shaaban. If you can please give us more, dig deep more into this. How are you supporting through this ecosystem? What are the success stories? What are the challenges they face in order for others to learn from these stories? Thank you.
Yes.
So you'd love to have the presentation.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank you, Lara.
Thank you very much. So
introduction and ESCO as well, and I have a presentation outline.
Thank you, Karim. So basically, Mr. Karim Shaaban will focus on nurturing this ecosystem through the work and through sharing challenges you have encountered in this journey.
Okay, thank you very much. So I represent the Center for International Private Enterprise. The Center for International Private Enterprise is a non-governmental organization, and it's based in Washington, D.C. with programs all over the world. Our mission is to strengthen democracy around the world through private enterprise and market-led solutions. So our definition of democracy is basically including having an inclusive policy-making process, economic policy-making process that has diversity and inclusivity from the private sector. So SMEs, micro-enterprises, medium enterprises and larger enterprises, as well as entrepreneurs and the informal sectors. We currently have 113 projects in about 64 countries around the world. In the Arab world, we're active in Tunis, Iraq, Jordan, Palestine, Egypt, Morocco, Bahrain, Algeria, Sudan, Syria. Not in Syria, but we work with Syrian entrepreneurs who are refugees, and in Lebanon as well. So our values, our most important value is local ownership. The barriers to SMEs are identified by SMEs and business support organizations, which is part of the ecosystem and part of the problem, actually, because in the Arab world, the business associations and business support organizations, aside from some incubators and accelerators in certain countries, are for the most part still developing nascent. They don't have sufficient services that SMEs are in dire need for. So local ownership and that ecosystem approach is very important to supporting SMEs. We work in about 6 different areas, and all of these areas has a concentration on supporting micro and small enterprises and micro, small, and medium enterprises. We're part of the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation under the WTO, and we work with governments across the world and in the region to help break down barriers for SMEs to access markets. So we're talking about regulatory, legislative barriers, and so on. We work a lot with business advocacy. In Jordan and in many countries in the region, we have many successes that were achieved through the creation of a national business agenda driven by SMEs. So it's a grassroots sort of approach, a top-down, a bottom-up approach to the issues. Democratic governance is another area, and it's one of the challenges when we're talking about access to finance and investment readiness. Are SMEs, do they have good corporate governance? Are they ready for investment? Do they have good planning that allows them to scale and to attract funding? And do they discriminate between the kinds of funding that is available? Or are they just accepting any kind of funding that's available and which is taking them into many different directions? So let me know when I'm close to the time. Yeah. So other areas, anti-corruption and ethics, and I'll give you some examples of those kind of programs, especially in Lebanon right now, with the current multiple layers of crisis that the country and business there is suffering from. Entrepreneurship ecosystems, I mentioned chambers and business associations, and we have a special focus on women economic empowerment. So in Jordan, just to give some examples, we worked with SMEs across Jordan to establish the first ever small and medium enterprise business agenda. And some of the impact of that is that it informed Jordan's Vision 2025, and it also informed JETCO's strategy for entrepreneurship and SME growth, the services and that are being provided by the organization, and of course, international strategies. Now, the next step, implementation, this is where there needs to be a lot of work and follow-up in terms of the implementation of the strategies and so on. Enhancing the representation of SMEs within the Chamber's framework is something else that we're working with our local partners on in Jordan. Again, representation is very important for SMEs and to basically help them craft the services, especially from semi-governmental bodies like chambers and so on, but more importantly, by the services offered by civil society representing business, like business associations and so on. So we talked about sustainable, embedding sustainable services beyond accelerators and incubators with business associations and helping them to develop, because they often focus on specific sectors and they really can help set strategies for those sectors and offer services that are often neglected by the larger bodies, which are mostly chambers and so on. And we also, another area that we concentrated on in Jordan is enabling economic growth through the green economy, identifying, working with local partners to study the regulatory and legislative gaps that don't facilitate the growth of the green economy and creation of value chains and so on, and highlighting the unique challenges of women-owned SMEs, of course, through National Business Agenda. This is an example of the effort that focused on barriers to women-owned MSMEs across Jordan. It was a national study that that mapped those barriers, and then there's now a coalition of local organizations that have come together to advocate for the solutions, and there are very specific solutions. So one of the things that we work on with our partners is to ensure that they're not just raising issues and challenges, but they're also offering practical solutions that decision makers can adopt and implement, so implementable, realistic solutions. Within the area of embedding services with business associations, under funding from USAID, we implemented a program that ended about 2 years ago, where we focused on building the capacity, the institutional, or enhancing rather the institutional capacity of about 11 business associations across multiple sectors, which included logistics, tourism, green built environments, and renewable energy, as well as women-led MSEs. So there were networking opportunities, trainings, business linkages created. And out of that effort and embedding these services and building them in a way that ensured sustainability of these services, there were some great successes reported, like 46%, for example, experienced increase in revenue. There were business partnerships created, 30% with micro enterprises, 62% with medium enterprises, and overall there was about 10.5% increase in jobs. So it shows growth, and a 340% increase in the membership of these organizations, of the business support organizations, which is really important to help build up and to further enrich the ecosystem. This is an example of the studies that we helped our local partner, the Jordan Green Building Council, in implementing. And the next step is actually coming up with a strategic action plan, identifying the entities that are responsible for each organization. I'll show you a model that we did in Egypt in a little bit. In Bahrain, we had great successes in Bahrain, and there was really a lot of, let's say, partners on the ground that were very active. We helped Bahrainis business organizations to design the first business agendas for micro, small, and medium enterprises. One of the great and out of successful advocacy efforts, 15% of the recommendations were actually implemented. So that, for us and for our local partners, was a great success story. So it takes planning, but it also takes political will, and it takes persistence in advocacy and in
on policy and governance and working with your partners in order to help entrepreneurs to scale up.
Yes.
So this is one of the success stories. And as an entrepreneur, let's say, I want to scale up, I can come forward to you and you can help me connect and build this strategy and work on a certain action plan to move forward.
Right. As an entrepreneur, we don't work directly with on the firm level.
Yeah.
We work with business support organizations to enable them to provide the services that entrepreneurs need, and we help them first of all to study their different sectors, to understand their members' needs or potential members' needs, and to build organizations that are sustainable. Am I almost close to the?
Yes.
Or
If we can just sum
wrap
up,
Sure.
wrap up with practical.
Sure. I want to show you this example, and we'll have more time to talk while we're in the panel.
Because we have the second part to discuss this more.
Sure. I just want to show you this last example from Egypt. This was really a success story. We took the national business agenda model into the digital realm, if you will, and we basically worked with the Federation of Egyptian Industries to transform this tool into an interactive tool. So there's a lot of benefits to it. It holds the government accountable. It identifies there's member interaction with the members of the chambers, and it also highlights which organizations within the government's apparatus that are not basically responsive. And there was really great success. You know, out of this effort, there was 22 big achievements in 18 months. So it really, it speaks to the willingness, but it also speaks to the persistence of these business support organizations that are really important. And I'll stop there, and we can.
No, thank you. We would love you to share more. Maybe in the second part we can discuss it together, especially we're coming into a more interactive session. Thank you very much. Now we come to Ms. Zahraa Taher, another phenomenal woman in the Arab region with a great success story. From your career journey, I mean, you've been through many challenges, and you've met a lot going through the same challenges. We're not going to tackle women in this area since Rana gave us insights on that. So from your perspective, especially in scaling up, we were talking about talent management and hiring, and this is one of the key challenges you shared with us. The stage is yours, and we'd love to learn more about it. Thank you.
Very much, Lara. First of all, I want to thank all of you. لازم نصفق لكم for coming after lunch to hear us. So I was telling Lara and the speakers, usually when your session is after lunch, this is an excellent test for who's there to learn and listen, and who's there to just be for the opening. So I think we're so lucky that we have this number. I didn't expect that.
It's a great dessert for thought
Wallah,
and action.
The other good news for most of the men over here is I always thought that I am very blessed to be a woman in the Arab world, especially in Bahrain. I didn't face many challenges because I'm a woman. I faced the same challenges that any man in this room would have faced if he was in my space. So my name is Zahraa Taher, proudly from the Kingdom of Bahrain. I own a company called Finmar Communications. I'll talk about it later. I'm here representing, if this works.
Yeah, the clicker, please. IT help, please.
Okay.
Deck.
It's not working, IT.
Tech, please. We're going to come to
The other
digital,
secret is I'm very bad with technology, so it might be me. So I just want the BPW slide.
Now the tech, please.
Okay. So I am here.
Technology.
Yes, that's
We're
good.
done? Okay.
I am here representing the Bahrain International Federation of Business and Professional Women, BPW. We are the first chapter in the Gulf region. We are part of an international organization which is more than 100 years. The other good news for most of the men here, the BPW Bahrain doesn't only serve women, we support men and women. We were 12 founding members, and proudly our vice president is here, Ms. Nabila Al-Khayer. So we were founded in Bahrain in 2012. Our main objective was and still is to support Bahraini entrepreneurs, Bahraini startups, men and women to start their business and to help them. We have our own incubators to go to the next level. We have around 10 incubators who graduated and they have their own I would say small because they were startup, now they are small businesses. We had some people who thought they were entrepreneurs, but after going into the experience, they discovered they were not entrepreneurs. And we have currently 20 entrepreneurs that we are supporting. I want to thank Esqua and I want to thank Karim because when the topic was given to me, what will help you to scale up? I was like, okay, perfect. Because we at BPW, we do not only think how to give them the place, we look at other things, which I think many entrepreneurs ignore. I was one of those entrepreneurs 20 years ago that I ignored these things. How to develop yourself, how to train yourself. Many business owners, they only focus on how to start their business, how to buy equipment, how to get financing, how to go to the next level. But what they forget is to invest in their own training, in their own personal development, and to invest in their team training. So what happens? You're growing the business, but you are not sustaining your team. You're not growing them because you are busy thinking on how to make sure that my business is functioning. So everything else will come later. I don't know how many entrepreneurs who are honest with themselves and who can say that this is what's happening. If you want, you can raise your hand. If you don't, okay, we have a few. So this is what's been happening, and this is what happened to me in 2002 when I started my first business. It's only focusing on how can I survive? How can I have enough cash at the end of the month? How can I convince UNIDO to support me or Tamkeen in Bahrain to give me the equipment? So talent management is what's always missing. So that's why when Karim gave me the topic, I said it's talent management, is how to develop yourself and to develop your team. Because when you're starting your business and you have a few good team players, I'm sure you will not think of how I want to invest in their time because it's not only about the money. If I have someone working with me, even if I have the money to send them to courses, but I need them because I have a small team. So these are the areas which entrepreneurs should look at. I am also on the board of the EO, Entrepreneurial Organization, which is a global organization, and I'm on the Bahrain chapter, and I'll give you my personal experience. So all my life, I am in non-profit organizations. I am on the board of the American Chamber. I like to help people. I only do that for networking and to support others. For the last 10 years, the EO has been trying to recruit me to become a member because you need to have certain criteria. And I always used to tell them, I don't have the time. I have enough network locally, regionally. I cannot be part of that. And I never listened. And this is one of the mistakes as an entrepreneur I did. Until last year, I decided, just because my friend was going to be the first female president, I decided to be a member. When I joined this organization, I was like, oh my God, this is only about developing yourself. You are not there to help others. It's not another AmCham or another BPW where you go to support others. This is to develop yourself. My excuse was always, I don't have the time to attend any training. I cannot do it. I'm so busy. And I wasted many, many learning development opportunities. So this is one of the areas entrepreneurs, companies, or organizations should look at, how the entrepreneur can develop themselves and how they can develop their team. The other thing, I think Rana mentioned, networking. Networking is a key area. Many entrepreneurs as well forget about it. Today I met many startups in the exhibition, and I was expecting to see them over here. But they prefer to talk about their business rather than come and learn and meet other people. Not because they didn't see the importance. They will know the importance a few years later. So these are the areas which I think people should look at more. Mentorship. Again, I used to think my mentor is my role model. I have many mentors in my life. I never knew that mentorship should be a structured relationship. It should be on a platform. Until 2017 or 2018, an organization called REACH, I think Rana knows about it. REACH is a platform focusing mainly on professional women, so the mentees are only women, discrimination. Mentors can be men and women, and the idea is to find the right match between the mentor and mentee and have a one-year relationship in order the mentee and the mentor will set their goals for the 1 year. So I found that this is phenomenal. It's an amazing thing. I created the first mentorship forum Middle East in Bahrain in 2019, and one of the sessions is for men and women, and one of the sessions was mentorship for entrepreneurs. Because again, many entrepreneurs do not know the difference between a role model, a coach, and a mentor. We have to encourage such networks, and we have to, as entrepreneurs, we need to look at that, even as SMEs. So these are the areas that will develop and will focus on talent management. And these are the areas which I hope organizations like the UNIDO, the ESQA, CIPE focus on. So this is, in a nutshell, what I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So again, we agree. You agreed mostly on networking and access to the ecosystem through certain facilities. This is very important. We come now to Mr. Rafik. You will highlight the digital aspect and scaling up. Mostly, you're going to tackle the industrial, or you're going to integrate this into your discussion. So from a digital transformation perspective and the strategies you're going through in UNIDO and the projects you've been working on. Could you please share more thoughts on that to inspire entrepreneurs in scaling up and how to integrate this tool in the scale-up process? Thank you.
مساء الخير. مساء الخير. Thank you very much.
يمكن لازم يوقفوا يرجعوا يقعدوا لنا for more energy.
You get it, and you deserve it. Could you put the slides, please? Thank you. I will try to ask this question for a perspective of maybe a policy making person in Germany, in Japan, in the US, or in China. How they will answer this question. How those countries are looking forward to scale up their SMEs, but their economies in all. Yeah. And I guess the most of unique question would be what we call Industry 4.0 adoption. And if we look a bit back, what happened during the 4 or 5 years back, we are seeing in UNIDO globally a big paradigm, a big shift in the ways business is being implemented, in the ways the international trade is being organized, in the ways cities are being managed. We are talking today about smart cities. You go to a city like Barcelona or Munich or any other, or Tokyo or any other developed city, you will hear how they are collecting their waste using intelligence, artificial intelligence. You got amazed, and you ask yourself, what happens in the region? Why we are not talking enough about such transformation? And that's, I think, the most element that is scaring me and scaring any organization that would like to prepare the region for such transformation. COVID came and just made things more rapid. The transformation went so fast with COVID. So it was a kind of enabler. You might remember, for example, this big fight among the 5Gs. I guess most of you heard about it. It's about the fight about the future. Those countries are preparing the future with a different total business model. And that's what we call Industry 4.0. I was in Tunis three weeks ago to launch a new project on Industry 4.0, and I was talking with some deciders. I have the feeling that in some countries, we are taking this Industry 4.0 as a new technology. No, it's about the fourth industrial revolution. It's an industrial revolution. We are revoluting everything. I may show you this slide. It looks, confusing, complex, but I am afraid the reality is much more complex if we don't start thinking about it. Look at those all technologies, sensors, robots, additive manufacturing, big data, machine learning, 3D printing, etc., name it. Those countries, of course, artificial intelligence, those countries are investing trillions of dollars every year to go through this process. Why? Because simply that's the future. Because those countries are aware that if they don't go through it, they will lose the international competition in every sector. We are talking from agriculture, education, culture, name it, everywhere, health sector, everything now is organized or will be organized in those countries using this Industry 4.0 approach. In some countries, we are talking about Society 5.0. Society 5.0 is the way they are preparing the new way of behavior of the society using these kind of technologies. For your information, the US is investing more than 300 billion US dollars on research on artificial intelligence. There is an international competition among those countries about this topic. So, this is the situation. I can tell you, I am covering a lot of projects around the region. I can tell you, in the Arab region, there are only 2 or 3 countries that they have a full understanding about these challenges we are facing. And I am not really exaggerating. 3 countries that they are aware about it, maybe only 1 country or 2 that they are really investing. The others are aware, but as one of the director generals in one ministry in one Arab country told me, I don't have enough time to handle with this issue. While in Germany, for 3 years, they mobilized the university, the research centers, of course, the government, the private sector, the finance sector, together for 3 years to think about how to set up Industry 4.0 business model for the country. While in our countries, unfortunately, you have one person that doesn't have enough time to handle this issue. It's critical. It's not because there is a gap. It's critical because there is not enough awareness about how we should go about it. So, hopefully, and that's the role of UNIDO, is hopefully to come up with some solutions for such complex issues. So UNIDO developed a comprehensive answer. And it goes from the legal element. Maybe you heard about the issues related to the data protection. It will come more and more. Access to information, big data, machine learning, all these infrastructure. The legal elements, how the Arab countries will be ready for it. Fortunately, for example, we just finished the study on artificial intelligence strategy for Jordan. So there are some countries that they started this way of engaging with things, but we need now to go much faster. The gap every day is coming more and more higher. Every day we need to think about our way to work on this to avoid more gap. So as an example, so those are the main elements. I think the colleagues went, if we start from the first session today, we talked about finance, we talked about skills in our panel, partnerships, the colleague from the Kuwait talked about it, and the Islamic Bank. But what is missing is how to link the dots together, how to all the main elements of the environment work together to come up with a comprehensive solution. It's not the responsibility of the private sector alone. It's not the responsibility of the government alone. It's all the ecosystem.
So basically, Mr. Rafik, I want to scale up. And I know these are the challenges. How would UNIDO, or how would I do it, integrating what you're saying, this big data, AI, etc.?
We didn't share the presentations with the moderator, I guess, Karim, neither, but every time we prepare the presentation to answer the question, you ask the question. So,
okay.
In Tunis, we have a project to answer this issue, how we can support SMEs to scale up through this approach. And this is the example that we are implementing right now. It's a project funded by Germany, €6 million project. And we take it from the different levels. First of all, we need to work on the policy level with the different institutions to prepare the strategies, to identify the role of the different interventions from the different perspectives. Then there is a big element on skills development. Skills development, it's critical in this area. A study from the...
So what Ms. Zahraa is saying,
exactly.
You're sharing the same.
Exactly, and I can tell you something. A study that had been made, prepared for the World Economic Forum showed, and take this figure, that 80% of the jobs of the future, we are talking about the next 5 years, are not existing yet on the market for those advanced countries. It's a totally new shift in the paradigm. And third, once we support the institutional, the skills development, the capacity building, then we pilot on some concrete enterprises. And for this project, for example, at the pilot phases, we're going to support around 100 companies.
Nice, interesting.
And this is just another example where we just focus on one element of this technology, the famous blockchain, and we used it for what we call the traceability technology. So how to use those new technologies to come up with a new way of approaching problems. The food safety element is a critical issue. Blockchain is used for the electronic money, but
digital currency.
Exactly, digital currency, but that's the basic of the technology. But this technology now is being used for different areas. Health sector is one of them, and could be used as well for traceability element issues. So those, in summary, the way we see how, from the perspective of, again, Industry 4.0, how we can scale up SMEs in the Arab region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, surely digitalization and metaverse and the hybrid world. Everyone is talking about it, big data. This is very interesting, and it's an interesting factor in taking it into the scale-up process. So we come to the next part of our session, which is a question we'd love to discuss. Could you please, there's a poll. The question, please. So we have a question addressing the challenges of SMEs, and these are the answers. So what should be the primary focus area to enhance the SMEs' participation in global value chains? So we have the first answer: enterprise clustering, business development services, access to finance, which most of you, of course, are worried about. And we have the regional and international partnerships, which Mr. Karim, Shaaban, and Mr. Rafik were talking about. So we'll start with Rana. Rana, from your perspective, your experience, which answer would you choose? And what are the major common points you were trying to share with Zahraa previously this session?
Yeah, I'm going to come back
because
first.
there is some
I'm going to start with a couple of things that
Zahraa,
I want to pick up on Reach. Reach Mentoring is a fantastic organization. So us as Elevate Dubai, we're a network, businesswomen's network, and we had a partnership with Reach, that is a businesswomen's mentoring organization. The reason they had to put a formal program to mentor women is not discrimination. It is because women lack a lot of mentors in the business world. And that's because of something called unconscious bias. 85% of leaders are males, and people, not just men, people. Yeah, good. I'm a Reach mentor, actually.
So basically, how would you see this? What is the problem here?
No, there's no problem.
Yeah.
It addresses it.
To answer her, because I'm on the advisory board of Reach. I help bring Reach to Bahrain. I'm a mentor on Reach. I totally believe in Reach, but because the whole session was woman, 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 so I wanted the men over here to feel like, don't feel discriminated. It's not only about that.
No, it's not about this. It's partnership. So from your own perspective, Rana, could you go back to the question?
The point here is that it will bring me back to the question. So something that we tackle here is called unconscious bias, right? Okay. And so people, all of us, me, you, everyone, has things like affinity bias, where we feel more connected to people a bit like us. And that leads to things such as men preferring to mentor men who remind them of themselves. Women would do the same, except there just aren't women at the top. But the way that sort of manifests in business owners getting access to finance is studies were done. The study has been repeated several times, where the same pitch deck was pitched to VCs. Sometimes by a male entrepreneur, and sometimes by a female entrepreneur. The same deck. And the men got the money 2/3 of the time, and the women got the money 1/3 of the time. So men were twice as likely to get that funding.
This is international data, not just Arab.
Don't listen, don't believe anything I say, go Google it yourselves. No, this is a study that's been repeated. Please go and Google. But basically it was the same pitch deck, and men were twice as likely to get the funding. And this is the unconscious bias that I'm talking about. And this is not something that we can fix very quickly. This is very primal. It comes from tens of thousands of years of us fearing what we don't understand in case they might eat us or attack us. So it used to serve us, but in the world of business today, it doesn't. And that's the main reason why women have these sort of problems getting access to funding. And to change this is a big cultural shift. We need to start normalizing female leadership. Okay, it's a big shift in mindset.
I want to play the devil's advocate. Now,
Please.
They're going to tell you, and I hear that a lot, that most initiatives, projects, whatever, are empowering women in business, women entrepreneurs. I mean, I know that from my students, and there's like Dr. Lara, I mean, all of the initiatives, the projects about women, you know, and now we're talking about that. So what do you say about it? And you're talking about women not finding access to finance. How would you react to this?
Well, I mean,
Give me an answer.
Well, number one, you asked me to talk about women, so that's why I'm talking about it. Number two,
I know there is a partnership thing. I know that.
No. And number two is
just playing the devil's advocate.
But you can't argue with facts. You can't argue with the fact that 25% of women of startups are led by women, and they get 2% of the funding. I mean, you can't argue with that data. Yeah, we talk about women, but we are not seeing the change in dollars and data. Until that happens, we are going to keep banging that drum. And the fact is, one of the solutions here, let's get into solutions. One of the solutions is getting more women investors. So another fact,
angel investors and investors.
And partners in VC firms. So fact is that women, when there are more partners, women startups, women founders are 3 times as likely to get funding from VC firms that have women partners. 3 times as likely. So that's a solution here, is us trying to get through the system more women to become LPs of VC funds, get more women on investment committees, because the data shows that women are investing more, are much more likely to invest in women-led businesses, 3 times as likely. So that's one thing we need to bear in mind.
Okay, thank you very much on tackling this part. We come to Mr. Karim Shaaban. So we have these answers, and you talked about what CIPE is doing. So from your own perspective, what is the answer?
What do I have to choose one? I would say all of them.
You can say all of the above. We have no problem with
I would say all of them, but I would, because of CIPE and what we do, I would focus on business development services. I think it's you know, we often focus, when we're talking about the entrepreneur ecosystem, we often focus on accelerators and incubators, but not everybody has the chance to have access, especially given the number of accelerators and incubators that do exist. So I would say, you know, first of all, the regulatory and legislative environment has a pretty significant role to play in improving the ecosystem and really supporting business support organizations to offer programs like mentorship opportunities, which are you know, priceless. I mean, we have an experience from Bahrain as well, where we had supported local partners to design and implement a mentorship program in addition to other skills building. And many of the entrepreneurs were able to access finance and attract investment and even refuse investment because they went through proper planning and you know, growth strategies and so on. And I do agree with you 100% that women are at a disadvantage when it comes to the ecosystem at large and to dealing with the barriers. But the barriers, for the most part, are the same barriers across the board, like you mentioned, Zahraa, in your presentation, but women do have a bigger disadvantage, of course. So I would focus on business development services. Let's invest in business support organizations so they can offer sustainable services, so they're not chasing donor funds, so they rely on themselves, and their services are based on the needs of entrepreneurs and business owners, and not the opportunities that are presented by international donors for the most part.
Thank you, Karim. Zahraa.
Can I ask Najib to please put my presentation, because I'll tell you why.
Zahraa is persistent on that. But which answer would you choose, like as they are giving us the presentation? That's what Karim was saying. Can they be all of the above? But let's focus. Yeah, go ahead. Our session is so interesting.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We're giving them more.
There is no one answer for. Yani, some people might have all, some people might have one.
Sure.
So I just want to give an example. Can we go to the next slide? I can go, yeah, okay. See, I think everyone knew it's me. Okay, yeah. Not this. So when I started Finmark, before I started Finmark Communications, I had another agency in 2002 until 2009 in events management and public relations. And no matter how much I grew, I couldn't go global nor regional. I managed to do something in the Gulf, and then I discovered why. Because the business I was in, which is communication, I needed to have a global partner in order to grow. Because communication is all about understanding the culture, knowing how things are. It's not about access to finance. It's not about recruiting people. It's about having the right partner. So for my business, this is what I had to do. I had to find the right partner, start a business. From 2010 and until now, we are in 2022, we really grew, and whatever I wanted, it happened. I'll give another example.
Can we quickly say that?
Okay, just very quickly, I have to. So this was established in Bahrain, Playbook. I don't know if the co-founder is here. So what they needed was different. They needed investors. They needed to go global. It's all about a platform for women as well. They applied things that my business didn't need to apply. They needed the digital aspect. So again, depending on their business, this is how you do it. And UNIDO was established in Bahrain in 2011. It's a luxury brand. And I think over the 10 years, they discovered what they need to really grow more, to go global markets, is to find the franchise, the right partners. So there is no one answer. Every business, every startup, every SME will have a tailor-made answer for them. So I just wanted to show you real-life examples.
So maybe after this session, they can come forward to you and you give them more insights on that. That's the whole objective. Coming to you, Rafik, how would you answer this question? Also, all of the above? Please. So we are with a techie person and no, please, Mike.
Okay.
Final
Thank
thoughts?
You.
Go ahead.
I think all of them, if they are oriented digital transformation, because simply this is the future. When we talk about BDS now, there are new services that should prepare the future of those enterprises in the area of, for example, just to give you an example, virtual reality, that's a new job. We need technicians, we need engineers, we need students in this area. So for the BDS, it has to be now integrating more and more digital-oriented curricula and skills. Access to finance, the famous fintech. Same for partnerships. Now, physical partnership events are going very rare. Most of the partnership events are organized through platforms online with sophisticated technologies. For me, I would really remove access to digital services and I will put it as cross-cutting area, and I think all the other topics should be oriented digital transformation within this big umbrella of Industry 4.0 or the fourth industrial revolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, the first sessions they were talking about part of it, which is e-commerce, but I guess we're looking more border in this. I mean, the metaverse, the web, also, it's very important. So we're coming to the end of the session, but it's not the end of the discussion, and it's not the end of collaborating, asking more. The panelists are here to discuss more opportunities, solutions, maybe collaborate. Thank you, Rana. Thank you, Karim, with all due respect, with no titles, but we know that your impact in the Arab region is very positive, and we really hope that this panel will bring action, will bring collaboration, will bring inspiration to our entrepreneurs. So Rana, you tackled about access to finance, the women challenges, and we're not here only talking about, as you said, women and men, but we have numbers, proving this. So hopefully by mentoring, networking, and as you said, role models, it will be better. Karim, you tackled nurturing the ecosystem, how we are building this, the facilities, the services. And Zahraa, you moved forward into talent and leadership, personal development. This is very essential in scaling up. Mr. Karim, you focused on the digital part, AI, VR, and you name it, because if we want to move forward in the future, we cannot miss this, especially when scaling up. Thank you very much. Any final thought you'd like to share before we close? Thank you. Thank you loads. Thank you, dear. Please, everyone, do not miss the opportunity to coming forward and inquiring more about it. Thank you. Thank you, Asqua. Thank you loads. Yeah.